Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go.
Okay, Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I am so excited today because we have Ashley Quinto Powell with us today. And Ashley, I have to say, I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second, but I have to say that I have watched you over the last couple of years in the community and just on social media and everything else. And I wanted you to be on the show because I really admire what you're doing in the world. I love your energy. I love your authenticity and everything that you're about. So super excited to have you on today. If you could just introduce yourself and let everybody kind of know your story, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. So I'm Ashley Quinto Powell. I head sales and marketing for a software and design firm here in Chicago called TableXI. We are often rated really highly, recently #1 in Chicago for custom software development. And I've been doing technical consulting, sales, and marketing for about 10 years on national clients.
Awesome. Awesome. So what else? I know you've got a bunch of other stuff that you do. You've got what you're doing in Chicago, and then you're in the Madison community a lot as well. So what's all the other stuff that you've got going on?
I am. So I started working in Chicago in the last 6 months. I'm actually from here originally, but I decided to keep my family in Madison. And so I have a commuter apartment in Chicago and still absolutely love Madison. It's still where we want to, my husband and children and I still want to have roots and raise kids. And so I'm commuting back and forth sort of on a weekly basis, which is interesting. But I really love Madison because I've made amazing connections, largely through something that I started called the Bossy, which is a group of executive moms and ladder climbers with ankle biters, if you will, but really ambitious women to whom content is often not well delivered.
Right, right. So what inspired that? Because I'm a part of that, and it's like a daily motivational thing. It's this amazing group of women. So what was the inspiration behind that?
Thank you. So in tech, we often worry that we're losing a lot of women, and I wasn't seeing anyone who had kids older than my kids, who were toddlers at the time, and I thought, well, if they are dropping out of tech, I want to know. And if they are going higher up and now I no longer have access to them, then I want access to them. And at the same time, I was getting really terrible advice, sometimes from other women, that I needed a support system. So for instance, I was traveling a lot when my kids were like little. I'm in sales. I travel to where clients are. I go to lots of conferences, and I was having trouble connecting with my kids because toddlers aren't great on the phone. And I'm really looking for advice around how to make travel less miserable. And I kept getting the same advice about how to advocate for myself to travel less as part of my job, which is not the advice that I needed, because I could take myself out of the game and make less money. But that's not what I needed or wanted. I wanted to understand how to make more money and how to do it better. And through the Bossy, I found women who were exchanging ideas around things like how to get toddlers to connect on the phone. And a really brilliant woman gave me some advice that I should have scavenger hunts. And then when we got on FaceTime, instead of, like they want to go back to doing whatever they were doing, and I just went desperately to have a conversation. I say, hey, I have hidden something, and I will take you on a trip to find it. It's sort of a fun game. Anyway, she gave me that advice, and it was really brilliant. And then that same woman took me aside when I was considering taking a job in Chicago, where everyone still, so it's like, oh my goodness, that must be so terrible. And that what a hard thing that must be to go through. But she pulled me aside and she said, I did it when my kids were young. You're going to love it. You get to focus while you're there. You get to focus on your family when you're home. She was right, but I probably would not have taken the leap if it weren't for advice like that. And we need advice like that in order to move our careers forward and not take ourselves out of the game.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. So the platform that you're building just allows women to come together and really have that voice and be able to have that kind of that partnership or that kind of consultation or different ideas and stuff like that. So that's really amazing. So when we talk about leadership and leaving a leadership legacy, which I feel like that's exactly what you're doing with this group, right? You're leading the way, bringing people together. When you're long gone, there have been relationships and things that have happened inside that group that are going to last way longer, and stuff like that. And that's leaving a leadership legacy. So when we talk about leaving a leadership legacy, what does that mean to you?
For me, it's like the substantive connections are really meaningful to me that are made in the group. I think, the group today exists to lift one another up and to bolster one another and then to do business together, because it doesn't really count unless we can turn to someone and say, I saw that you have a product you built. I bought the product. It works effectively. I've recommended it to 5 friends. And if we're not doing that for one another, there's no point. And so I'm really excited about those types of connections in addition to friendships, but we can make friends on a playground. We really need friends who are going to help us business-wise the way that men have been doing for a long time.
Right. Yeah. I love what you were talking about when you said, when people would find out you're working in Chicago, but you live in Madison and driving back, and we're like, oh my God, how terrible is that? And men have been doing that for all of time, right? And nobody ever says that to a man. How terrible is that? And so I love that you're trailblazing the way for that. How is leadership different today than it maybe has been in the past? What's changed? What's evolved?
Well, from my perspective, we're moving at such a fast pace, and it won't slow down, which I think is really exciting. And I think modern leaders will embrace the pace at which everyone moves, and also trusting the people that we hire to do a good job will be really important, because the idea that everyone comes in at 9 o'clock and leaves at 5 and everyone works in the same place is really antiquated. And that system didn't help people who needed flexible schedules or people who didn't want to be in an office all day. It didn't help them succeed. And so if we take a look at our workforce, we have to make those adaptations. And it is, to the right person, it is really exciting. And I think leaders need to be really excited about the changes. I was in a meeting yesterday where somebody was talking about how terrible it was that Facebook and social media, and I thought, no, that you sound like an old man yelling at kids to get off his lawn. And we're just in a different world, and we can embrace that we might be the public face of a company and embrace that and have it elevate both us and our company, or we can miss out on some really wonderful opportunities. As an example, I think that there's like co-working that's really exciting, and the way that we're doing automation. Tina, you interacted with my scheduling bot today. I'm really excited about Andrew, my scheduling bot, who's a service bot by X.AI. That saves me a ton of time and is a really fluid interaction. And I just think that embracing that is important and will be the defining factor for modern leaders.
Yeah, I love that. I love the modern leader. I had not heard that before. So what are some characteristics of a modern leader? What does that look like?
That's great. So trust, I think, is a major factor. The environment that I'm in today, I work for a CEO who's absolutely brilliant, and he comes up with ideas, and he shares them and then walks away and trusts that people will either put on their big boy or girl pants and tell him when it's a bad idea, or make it happen. And he doesn't have a lot of time for follow-up. And that's how, those systems in place and that trust is one of the things that lets our organization go forward at the pace that we're moving. And
Yeah.
And again, having distributed teams, and also, if you don't trust me, like, that's a major red flag. I think people who hire the best talent and trust it will probably that's probably the mark of the modern leader. Maybe in 10 years, that's what we'll say.
Right, exactly.
Finally started trusting us to do a good job.
Yeah. So if we think about, let's pretend that I'm a leader, I'm in business, I have a team of people, I've been around for a while, so I kind of have that old school leadership. I'm not a modern leader, but I want to be a modern leader, but I just don't know how to. I have a team of people, they're not getting along, we're not getting the results that we need. I can't figure out that team dynamic piece to get people moving. So what's some advice that you have for somebody that might be in that situation?
That's a good question. From the agile methodology, which we use in software development quite a lot, there are some really powerful lessons to learn that we can roll out in many situations. One is the concept of a retrospective, where we take a look at what happened, good or bad, and acknowledge that everyone was doing the best that they could with the knowledge that they had, and still examine it and have everybody be raw and open and not defensive, but on the same page about how we're moving forward. And that's something that, I very briefly left tech at the beginning of 2017 to work for a publishing company to try to help them be more modern. And that was sort of the hallmark for me of the difference that tech leaders who are doing a great job are transparent and they're open about the mistakes that they're making. We celebrate failure at Table XI as much or more as we do our successes. And in the experience that I had outside of tech, so I had been in tech for 10 years, except for 6 months. And the idea that you had to be really, you either had to succeed or hide it was not healthy. And I love the idea that, failure is not something to be ashamed of. We can admit it all together, and then we can get past it and move on.
Right. That's such a, so again, when we talk about the modern leader, somebody who can make mistakes and roll with it, admit to it, say, I'm sorry, I'm going to do better next time. Right. But this old school kind of mentality that we have is that if we fail, then we're done, or, failure is bad. And that's how we grow. It's how a team grows. It's how an organization grows. And so this idea that as we move into the future that we have to fail to grow in order to move forward is really, really prevalent. The other thing that you said that I really loved is the whole communication and EQ piece, right? When I think about a modern leader and somebody kind of taking that leadership to the next level, it's really examining kind of how you're leading yourself. So that's my next question to you. When I talk about, because I firmly believe that if we can't lead ourselves, how can you possibly effectively lead other people? So what does leading yourself mean to you?
Well, lately it has meant that I pay really careful attention to my productivity, and that I'm really careful about examining, am I doing what I need to be doing? Am I remaining focused and eliminating distractions? And for me, that has been challenging. And so I think instead of being defensive, one of the things that I've done is I tell everybody how distracted I am and why that's a problem and why I have identified that as a problem. And I work with a coach here in Chicago, an executive coach here in Chicago, which I think is so important because even Jordan needed a coach. And one of the things that she pointed out to me in the beginning of our working together is she was like, you tell me that to be more productive, you just have to do more and be better. And that's not, like, you just can't work 24 hours a day. Like the ceiling of this is that you are working all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So dial it back and figure out what you can actually do to be and feel successful.
Yeah, I think as women, we have a tendency to pile on. I know I'm super guilty of that. I want to do it all and be all and help everyone and do everything. But what happens is that we're not taking care of ourselves in that process, right? And all of a sudden we're in burnout and we're not paying attention to the family like we need to. I think that in this uber 24/7 connected world that we have, if we're not happy at home, we're taking it into work, and at work, if we're not happy, we're taking it home. And so it's just that line in between work and home is so much different. One of my last questions to you is, what advice do you have for people that are really feeling that overwhelm? Because I think that's a really prevalent challenge as well in leadership today, is just feeling so overwhelmed, information coming at us all the time, just this change and connectedness. So what advice do you have for somebody who's maybe in that state of mind?
I mean, I certainly need to come up with this piece of advice and then give it to myself probably later this week. I personally live in a state of overwhelmed, and I really pride myself on how active I am and how much I get stuff done. I can't honestly say if that's healthy or not. And I tend to bristle against people who tell me to make sure to live in balance, because I think that's unreasonable. If I'm going to accomplish everything I want to accomplish.
And balance is subjective, right? Balance too might be different. You know, it's different for everyone.
And it feels often like it's just one more thing we put pressure on for women. Like, oh, make sure that you succeed at work and your home is clean and your children are fed healthy organic meals. And also now self-care, I can make you feel guilty about self-care. And I just feel like, please don't put another thing because but it does need to be in balance. Like there's great value to that, and I don't want to discount that. It's just a personal feeling of mine that whether or not I'm in balance at any point is up for debate. But one of the things that I'm working on for productivity, I actually met a woman through the Bossy who also had the same problem with like focus, and so she built a planner. It's a company called Boldly & Co, like Go Boldly. And she tells you to like make a list of your most important things. And then here's a column for what you can delegate. And if you can delegate it, you cross it off your list. And I think it's so brilliant because in no women's organizations do we talk about the fact that we should be delegating. And also like, why does all the content for women assume I'm no one's boss? That's insulting. And we need help, whether you get it from a bot or a great, and I have an enormous amount of help doing what I do because I have a husband who helps me at home, and he stays at home and handles all of that. And I delegate an enormous amount of things to him, including some of my social media stuff.
Yeah. And
then at work, I do the same thing, and it's still hard, but I love that acknowledgement, which I don't think you see often.
Right. I think, kind of going back to what we were saying, it's subjective, right? So it's about checking in with yourself. And if you're not happy and something's wrong, well, then it's like, okay, now I got to search for kind of how I get closer to that balance. But like, if you're happy and you're doing stuff and everything's good and you're living joyfully, like that's the goal, right? Like, isn't that the goal?
That is the goal. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do people get a hold of you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Ashley Quinto Powell there. The Bossy has a website called thebossy.us or upwardlymobile.me. And we are a group of executive women, and you can find links to the Madison site there, and as well as Chicago, which is just opening up. And I'm hoping to take us to other cities, and eventually it will be executive moms who rule the world.
That's amazing. I'm so excited for that, because that's going to happen, right?
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to chat with you, and I'm really rooting for your success.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Like I said before, I knew that I wanted you on this show because I love your energy. I love what you're doing with all the boss moms and all of that kind of stuff. And just keep going, keep leading the way. Yeah, thank you so much for being on. I really, really appreciate it. All right, you guys, that ends another one. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.